Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Unfiltered Feed podcast. And this is one of our most anticipated episodes because we will be talking about the World T20 or T20 World Cup as it is called. So, this is going to be a comprehensive guide for most newcomers and even many of the senior or experienced watchers. So before we dive deep into it, let us welcome my co-host, your co-host Yash. So how was your last week been? I can finally ask this.
Yeah, it's been a very nice week. Uh, my classes have basically picked up momentum now, so it's getting a bit tricky to manage time. But I'm very excited for today's podcast as well because, as you mentioned, a lot of experienced folks like myself are quite new to most of the teams in this World Cup. So it will be a nice, informative podcast where we can hopefully learn a bit more about all the associate teams that are playing.
Yes, and there are quite a few of them with Bangladesh's dropout. Now
Yeah.
there are 9 associate teams and 11 full members, so almost equally balanced. And who knows, by the time we upload this, something else might happen, and you might have another associate coming in. I'll keep my mouth shut for now and let us continue. I mean,
Yeah,
it is my time to
but
open my mouth.
you'll shut your mouth about this. But before you open your mouth, I wanted to mention about a very interesting couple of tweets that I read yesterday. This was from the Iceland Cricket Board, the first tweet, in which they addressed the ICC saying that they won't be ready to play instead of Pakistan if that situation ever happened. And they kind of mocked a few other teams where they said we don't have enough infrastructure where our players are full-time cricketers. Our players come from all walks of life and they can't quit their day jobs to suddenly travel to the other side of the world to play in a tournament. So we are not ready. So they kind of mocked a few other teams. And then I think it was Uganda who mocked Iceland and responded to the tweet by saying that they were 100% ready to play instead of Pakistan if needed. And they said that our passports are warm, not icy, and all their players are they are practicing, so they are more than ready to play the World Cup. So that was quite interesting to see that these teams are still, expressing their intent. I don't know how serious they are, but they're at least tweeting about it.
Yeah, good to see some light-hearted teams when everywhere else in the cricketing world everything is focused on the optics. So good to see that part still being alive.
Yeah,
And let us time let us start. So we'll go group wise. So the basic format for this video will be we'll go through each group and talk about the teams and the matchups there, just a brief preview, and then talk about players to watch out for from each of the teams that
yeah,
we feel might make the most impact. And then once all 20 teams are done, we'll just quickly go through the Super 8 seedings, and then we'll end it there because I don't think there's any point making predictions past that even before we know who will enter the Super 8 stages.
yeah.
So let us start with Group A, and of course, what a surprise! India, Pakistan, and then 3 associates with Netherlands, Namibia, and USA. So that is Group A, and I think Pakistan will play entirely in Colombo. So all their games will be in the same venue, and the rest of the teams are stationed in India, but will go to Sri Lanka just to face Pakistan.
Yeah,
So, what are your very, very initial reactions about this group?
I think the ICC knew what they were doing when they decided to keep to schedule this group the way it is, because in spite of, I think, Indians and Pakistanis both saying that we don't want to play each other, they, I mean, everybody knows that India Pakistan is the prime match for any international tournament. And with the way Pakistan cricket is going, we can't be sure that they'll qualify for the Super 8s. So they can't put that to a chance. So they had to make India and Pakistan play in the same group. And apart from that, they've again tried their best to make sure that these two teams qualify, so that later in the tournament they might get another chance to play each other. So that's why there are three other, associate or like three teams that have basically no chance. But to be honest, this is also the case in other groups, and we'll discuss about that. As you mentioned, there are 9 associate teams, and out of the other 11, I mean, there are very few teams that are actually contending. So each group has more teams that are just there for the sake of it, because it's a 20-team tournament. So I think putting India and Pakistan together is, it's not a coincidence. It's well planned, and now they have to deal with it by making them play in Sri Lanka, and the other 4 teams will travel to Sri Lanka to play Pakistan. So it's a bit tricky because you don't know who's the host, because the host team will have to go to a different place to play the other team. So that's a bit tricky.
Yeah, and I think one of the points you mentioned is that there are 11 full members, but those also include teams like Ireland, Zimbabwe, West Indies. So it's more on the lighter side when it comes to competitiveness, but of course, global sport and all that debate will keep coming up.
This is, just to add a point, this is very similar to the FIFA World Cup that's coming up, because they have also expanded to 48 teams now from, I think, 32. So because of that, every single group has maybe 1 or at best 2 teams that are actually good and deserve to make it through. So the group stage over there as well it's quite straightforward. You can easily predict which teams are going to qualify, and there's just 1 or 2 groups that have 3 teams that are good enough. And I think similarly in this World Cup as well, there's 1 group that is the group of death, which we'll talk about. But other than that, it's quite straightforward.
Yeah, and coming back to this group, I can very well imagine the folks at ICC just copy pasting this group from the last World Cup, and then just to make sure that there's some sort of a difference, they replaced Ireland with Netherlands from last time and Canada with Namibia. They were about to replace USA, but then they realized that Pakistan USA is also a bit of a thing now, and so they didn't bother to do that, and that is how you got this group. I won't be surprised if that is what happened. So talking about the players to watch out for from each of the teams, I think we can go with India first, get them out of the way. I genuinely feel, if we are talking about India, even though they will be playing a lot of their games in good batting wickets, I feel Varun Chakravarti has to be my pick, just because of the sheer genius that he is, and especially early on in the tournament against associate teams or weaker batting lineups, I think it will be very difficult for them to pick him, and so he will kind of steamroll through those batting lineups.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I've gone with Hardik, and this is more for the later stage in the tournament. I think they'll rest him against US, Namibia, and the other team. Maybe even against Pakistan, you never know. But in the second half of the tournament, Hardik is going to be crucial because he gives you 2 to 3 overs, maybe even 4, and he's that crucial finisher, and he is in form. So his runs will matter really. It will matter extremely at the end. Him and Dubey. So I think Hardik he's like the backbone of this Indian side. Without him, the team loses its balance completely. So he's the most important player.
Yeah, and as we talked in our previous video, Hardik Pandya's bowling has been really good. He looks in good rhythm as well. So those two, keep an eye out for them. But with this Indian team, every single man out of the 15 is good enough to win you games on their own on their day.
Yeah.
But these two are the ones we go with. So let us move on to Pakistan. Of course, very dangerous on their day, I would say, because
Yeah.
of the influence that Mike Hessen has had in the last few months has been visible, and they've kind of developed some sort of momentum coming into the tournament. They won a couple of multi-nation or tri-series tournaments, and they did well uh, in the Asia Cup compared to their previous performances.
Yeah.
They at least made the final. So I think they are in a good position, and the fact that they're playing all their games in Sri Lanka and they already knowing it means that they could optimize their team, and they're stacked with spinners. I've gone with Saim Ayub as the player to watch out for. Of course, most of the world saw him with the ball in the Asia Cup, but I think his batting failure was just a one-off, and he's very, very dangerous, primarily as a batter. But when you pair that with his crafty bowling and the conditions that he'll get in Colombo, I think he's going to be the one to watch out for.
Yeah, I remember you were quite hyping him up for the Asia Cup, and I hope he can do a bit better than that. I have gone for a left field choice, and this is Usman Tariq. I saw a couple of videos of him. He has a very unorthodox action, and I also heard that they are resting him against the Australia series that's currently going on, or maybe just got over. So they are reserving him specifically for that, I think for the India match or for the T20 World Cup in general. So he's someone who no one has really seen before in international cricket. So I'm looking forward to see how he performs.
Yeah, I think that is a very, very smart choice as well. Uh, Pakistan have the chance to do something similar to what India did with Varun Chakravarti in the Champions Trophy, where they
Yeah.
unleashed him only in the later stages. And he is someone who it is difficult to pick him from ball one. It will take time. He has a stop-start action, and he has been accused of chucking, but he seems to be getting the clearance because he has a double bone in his elbow, so he can't bend it or something like that. That's what I heard. So it will be interesting, and I'm sure someone like Hessen can pull this off and
Yeah.
unleash him in the World Cup directly. So those are our picks for Pakistan: Saim Ayub and Usman Tariq. I genuinely didn't expect that name from you, but it's a good one. So let us move on. Let me move on to the associates for this group. Netherlands. The problem pretty much with all three of these teams, Netherlands, Namibia and USA, is that they just haven't played enough cricket in the recent few months, which is not the case with all the associates, but these three in particular. Uh, they've either not played after the qualifiers itself or just the series here and there. So for Netherlands, I've gone with Michael Levitt. He's a top order batter and absolutely consistent. He's one of those guys who can rely on. Maybe someone like Virat Kohli in IPL in the last two seasons, where whenever you open the scorecard, he will see his runs. So that is what I feel Michael Levitt has been doing, and he does that at a good strike rate as well. So Levitt for me from Netherlands. And moving on to Namibia, I think one man whose name you might have heard as well, and he's Ruben Trumpelman. He's a very pompous named but a equally talented bowler. I would regard him as one of the swing kings of this tournament, and I know he won't be playing in conditions where he can maximize that skill, but even in Sri Lanka and in India, you do get some help with the new ball. So I'm looking forward to him. Left armer, almost a 6 feet 8 inch tall man, and he's got some game time in the Nepal Premier League. Not the highest of standards, but at least he's played some cricket in these conditions. And then for the United States of America, the country where I'm sitting in right now, uh, it has almost got nothing to do with the team that will play the World Cup in a short time. I have gone with Andres Goose, or House as they like to call him. I think he's one of the few players who has had some exposure in the leagues around the world. He played the ILT20 and the Abu Dhabi T10 league as well, if I'm not wrong, and he's done decently. So just because of his exposure, again, not a lot of USA players have got game time in the recent past. But one name that I would like to add, if he gets a go in the playing 11, I think he can really be the X factor, and he is Saiteja Mukka Malla. He's been a very, very great upcoming talent. He's also a part of the Texas Super Kings.
Oh,
So
you've
any
showed
names
off
from
your
these three?
your cricket knowledge. I think for Namibia, if David Visa is playing, then he will. Oh, okay, he's not playing. So either I would have gone for him because he has been a clutch player for them. From Netherlands, I actually am not aware of a lot of players, but I think of these three sides that you mentioned, Netherlands feels like the most balanced because they have had some experience playing in World Cups and they have always been around the qualifiers, so they've always reached towards the final stages. So I think they should do the best amongst these three teams.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. From Netherlands, I'm sure you know players like Baz the lead
Yeah.
and the captain Scott Edwards has been known as well, and Roloff van der Merwe.
Yeah, I have heard of them in the 2023 World Cup.
And one player that you would like is Fred Klaassen. He's been associated with Mumbai Indians in the ILT20 for now, and will be a part of MI family for quite a few leagues in the future.
That's interesting. So now that we are here in this group, I think it's safe to say that your top two will be India and Pakistan. And do you expect any upsets?
Yeah, so the team vulnerable to upsets has always been Pakistan. I've rarely seen India struggle against minnows in such tournaments, but this time I feel Pakistan will not do a Pakistan and actually make it through safely. This is something I've been noticing over the past few months. As I mentioned, Mike Hesson is kind of built this environment within the team, a bit of calmness around the setup finally, and I
Yeah.
think that will reflect into their performances.
Yeah, I think that also happened in the Asia Cup where they just lost against India. But other than that, they kept winning consistently. So that should happen in this World Cup as well, at least in the group stage. When there's not a lot of pressure on them, they should do well.
Yeah, so I think Group A is wrapped up, and let us move on to Group B. And this is Australia, then the co-hosts Sri Lanka, Oman, Ireland, and Zimbabwe. So this group is entirely going to be played in Sri Lanka, so not a single match in India. Uh, I think it is a kind of a tricky group when I look at
Yeah.
it initially. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I agree that I think Australia is comfortably the best team, but after that, I would think that Ireland, Sri Lanka, and Zimbabwe are quite close. Sri Lanka is still a bit ahead, but Ireland and Zimbabwe on their day can beat Sri Lanka. So there could potentially be a fight for number two, but I think Oman will be crying because they have absolutely no chance. They might end up beating maybe Ireland, but other than that, it looks very tough for them. But yeah, it's a close top four. Or the extremes are kind of clear, but the middle three are going to be close, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. Australia, however spin-friendly tracks they get, I don't think Sri Lanka are a better team than Australia, even in these conditions. Australia have got most bases covered, but I actually won't be shocked if they are pushed to their limits in a few of the games. You saw Oman going close last time against them. Uh, in the end, they did win by 20 runs, but still, Oman managed to restrict them to about 150. So you can expect something like that in Sri Lanka again. There won't be many high-scoring games there, but I feel Australia will definitely qualify. I'm more excited to see how Sri Lanka go. So they are the co-hosts. They've got all the crowd support that they need, and they've got three easy teams to beat and qualify. I just hope more than for their team, for their fans, that they don't bottle up this chance to make a name, because you really don't want to have an embarrassing tournament in front of your home crowd. One thing I've noticed is that the crowd support does lift them up as a team. Whenever they are backed by their fans, they end up doing really well. So I see Australia and Sri Lanka as firm favourites, even though Zimbabwe can shock either of them. I don't think I would put Ireland closer to Oman than to Zimbabwe at this stage. They were also triumphed by Italy a couple of days back and are playing against Afghanistan right now. So I think Australia and Sri Lanka for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. So let's go with the one player to pick from each of the five teams. Let's start with Australia, and I've gone with Tim David because I think Australia, not at the start but towards the end, they will face a few stronger teams like South Africa, India, New Zealand, England, and against them, a finisher like Tim David could be very useful. We've seen him do wonders in the IPL and also in the various leagues around the world, and because of that, he's won most of the tournaments. So his contributions towards the end will be very useful, and those quick fire 20-30 runs that he can score will end up being very valuable. So I think he's one player to look for.
Yeah, I think Tim David, the kind of form he's been in, he can definitely win them a few games on his own. I've gone with Adam Zampa simply because of the conditions, and by the time they play in India, I think those conditions as well will be more suitable for Zampa. So he's a genuine wicket taker, and one insight that I can provide here is that Australia are not just playing in Sri Lanka, but three of their 4 games are also day games. So that's going to make facing Zampa even harder for teams like Oman, Ireland and Zimbabwe. Their only night game in the league stage is against Sri Lanka on 16th of February. So that's why I picked Zampa, and he has got a good track record of playing in these conditions.
Yeah, he was on my list as well, but then I saw yours. Zampa, yeah, he is one spinner that does really well for Australia, but whenever he plays in the IPL in Indian conditions, he doesn't seem to do that well, and then he gets dropped. So it's weird, but I'll be interested to see how it does in Indian conditions, because in Sri Lanka, I think it should be a bit more favorable for him. And as you said, they're playing day games, but in India, where the pitches are going to be a bit different, more suitable for batters, that's when Zampa will show his true skill or the lack of it.
Yes. So let us move on to Sri Lanka, and I think this is a very easy choice for me. I've gone with Pathum Nisanka, and on this very platform, I would like to make a very big claim here and say that Pathum Nisanka is the best all-format batsman in the world right now. I know there aren't many contenders, but he's definitely leading that pack. And one thing that has improved in the recent past is his strike rate in T20 cricket. So I can definitely see him winning you games, not just in the group stage, but possibly in the Super 8s as well. So I've gone with him, though I was tempted with Vanindu Hasaranga a little bit, but I don't think he's regained his bowling form yet.
Yeah, that's a fair call. Nisanka was also picked in the IPL, which shows that he's a good player now. I think, I have gone with Matisha Pathirana, because I was reading a few reports about him, and there were a few journalists who were saying that he has regained his older form because he tweaked his bowling action a bit. So I think he's lowered his release points a little, which has allowed him to get in his 2023 or 2022 rhythm, which did wonders for CSK. If you remember, in one IPL, he was almost unplayable. So if he's back in that rhythm, then he could be a very important player, especially in the death when there's a lot of dew. So his form will be very important for Sri Lanka, and that's why I've gone for him.
Yeah, I think I did catch hold of his bowling today against England, and I also noticed that he's gone back to his old action. I think the last 12 to 15 months, he made a few changes. He elevated his release point a bit, but it didn't work, obviously, and he was very bad at controlling himself as well. So he's gone back to his old style, and I think it's going to work really well for Sri Lanka in these conditions. Him and Ishan Malinga both together. I would have loved to see Nuwan Thushara to complete the trio, but these two can be very difficult to hit in the death.
Yeah, and I think they also have Lasith Malinga as their bowling coach or mentor. So his guidance will also be very crucial for both these players who share a similar action to him. So Malinga will be able to train them better, I think.
Yeah, so Sri Lanka definitely, especially because of their bowling attack, I can see them narrowly or however, but escape the troubles of the associates. Even though there's just one associate in that group, but I consider Ireland and Zimbabwe as well. So we both say Australia and Sri Lanka going through from this group. So let us move on to Group C, and this is not a very exciting.
Just a quick one before we move on. Do you want to mention your top players from the other three teams? Just mention them quickly.
Oh, I completely forgot. Yeah. So talking about Oman, they too have got the same problem as the other three teams, which is not enough game time. And for Oman, this becomes a bigger problem because nobody hires or gets Omani players in their T20 leagues either. So their players are completely focused on their daily labor or whatever work they do and not play cricket. So I've gone with Hamad Mirza as my player to watch out for. He played really well in the qualifiers, and he's also passed my eye test when he batted against India in the Asia Cup.
Hmm.
He scored a 50, I think, and was really good. If you remember that game, Oman had almost toppled India
Yeah.
in that game. They just fell short by a few runs. So Hamad Mirza for me. From Ireland, there are quite a few options, but I've gone with George Dockrell simply because he started bowling again and he looked in good rhythm versus Italy from whatever I could see. So he can be very dangerous. He's got experience. He's been around for quite a while. If you remember, he was also on that PSP cricket game, Brian Lara cricket.
Yeah.
So he's that
He's a
old.
veteran.
Yeah, and I think he's also a reliable finisher. I didn't go with Harry Tector, though he's one of their key batters, but I feel in these conditions Dockrell is more suited for success. And Zimbabwe, I think Sikandar Raza, you have to go with him. He's a
Yeah.
T20 legend and not just limited to Zimbabwe cricket, but I would say he's a legend of the T20 leagues, and he's played almost all across the world at this point and has been successful everywhere. So I would go with him, and I'm very, very interested to see his bowling in these conditions
Yeah.
because it just feels like something will happen whenever he bowls and these conditions. He could. I'm making my first real prediction here, and I'll go on to say that he could be the reason either of Australia or Sri Lanka have a very, very tough game against Zimbabwe, and I won't really double down and say that Zimbabwe will win against either of them, but you might see a very close game and he will be the reason. Also, a quick mention to Brian Bennett from Zimbabwe is their opening batter and has been in terrific form, very consistent again. I think in the last 8 innings he scored about 5 or 6 50s.
Wow.
So he's someone to look forward to, but I think he will be found out in these conditions. So I've gone with Sikandar Raza.
Fair enough. So now we've reached the halfway point. So now let's go to Group C, which is England, Italy, Nepal, West Indies, and Scotland, who have replaced Bangladesh now. So this actually could have been a pretty decent group if you had Bangladesh, West Indies, and England in one group. But with Scotland coming, I think it again kind of saves West Indies because they are now clearly the second best team in this group. So quite straightforward again after Bangladesh gone.
I would like to disagree a bit here.
Oh.
I have seen enough of West Indies in the recent past. I know the team looks really good on paper, but if I'm being honest, Nepal defeated them in a T20 series in a comprehensive way, that too, not long ago. I think it was in October or November.
Yeah.
And they have had a really terrible time out there. They don't have Nicholas Pooran either. He's retired. So I can not clearly differentiate and put them as the second best team. I feel Bangladesh missed a golden opportunity because they were clearly the second best team in this group. But they unfortunately had other plans. So West Indies, in that sense, will be a bit better off with Bangladesh not there. But I still expect them to fight against Scotland and Nepal for that second spot. So this group is going to be the most exciting for me personally, because just the prospect of having Nepal or Scotland in that Super 8 in the Super 8s would be very exciting. Though I do see West Indies end up making it through, but I can't really put my dollars on it.
That's an interesting take because for a casual international cricket fan like me, I would assume that West Indies are actually one of the contenders because they've historically been really good in T20 cricket, especially in India and Sri Lanka in this region. And I've heard that they've got a few of their players back, like Shimron Hetmeyer, who is also in good form. Rutherford as well has picked up his form, so they're looking good. In fact, I think they recently won a game, or okay, that was someone else, but I think West Indies should make it fairly comfortably.
Yeah, I think I remember Darren Sammy when he announced the World Cup squad. He did mention a very special line where he said something really special is going to happen with West Indies cricket. And then a couple of days later in the T20 versus South Africa, they scored 180 and it was chased down in 15 overs. So that really sums up West Indies cricket for you. If you look on paper, at least, I won't deny that they have one of the most dangerous batting units on paper, at least. They've
Yeah.
got Shai Hope, Brandon King, Johnson Charles, and then that middle order of Rovman Powell, Sherfin Rutherford, and Romario Shepherd. So that
And
is,
Hetmeyer as well.
and Shimron Hetmeyer. So I think one of the most dangerous looking batting units, and the fact that they're going to play in Wankhede and Eden Gardens, at least the group stage. So they do have a great setup, but the bowling is what is going to be very important for them. I feel now that I'm looking at them a bit more closely, I think that batting will get them through the group stage because against associates, the real challenge is your batting. So the only way you can lose to them is if your batting fails. Your weak bowling does get hidden in some way. So I feel they'll make it through, but not at all in an easy way.
Right. So now let's take a look at one player from each team. So this time let's start with associates. Let's give them some respect. So you can make a move and talk about Italy, Nepal, and Scotland first.
Yeah, so the first team I would like to talk, and the team that I'm rooting for the most is Nepal.
Oh,
I really like their energy, and I think and a lot of fans will be shocked when they see their fielding. I think they're one of the best fielding units in this tournament. Uh, and I've gone with Dipender Singh Airy as my player to watch out for. He's also known as Nepal's Hardik Pandya,
no.
and I think he is a good finisher, bowls decently, and is one of the best fielders I've ever seen. And I've seen quite a few. So it's going to be very exciting to see him and the entire team, and also expect a lot of fan support for them.
Yeah.
Considering whatever data we have, Nepal games had the most demand after India's. So a lot of passionate fans will be there. So that can up them. I can see them defeating Scotland and Italy, but West Indies is the game they would be looking at the most. And if somehow they can do that, you never know. You might see India versus Nepal in the Super 8s. So that is Nepal. Scotland, again, they haven't played much international cricket. Of course, they weren't also qualified. They didn't qualify for this tournament, but they still made it. But what I don't like about this decision is that Jersey actually finished ahead of them in the qualifiers, but still Scotland made it just because the team that they're replacing had made it on the basis of their ranking. So when Bangladesh go out, the next highest ranked team comes in, and the
Oh,
qualifiers just don't matter. Otherwise, you would have seen Jersey instead of Scotland here. So from Scotland, I think one name that you and everyone know is Mark Watt. Watt is his name. And he has been in good form. He's played the NPL and Nepal Premier League, and he was opening over there and also scored 100. But he's a
Oh,
bowler, and he's a very witty bowler, and he's made for these conditions. Though they'll play a couple of games in Mumbai as well, but in Eden Gardens, he's the one to watch out for. And lastly, Italy. Lastly, over here, but firstly, in a lot of ways, they have been a very inspiring team. And though they did get rid of Joe Burns and appointed Wayne Madison as the captain, uh, it is a bit of a shocking move for me. But
yeah,
you don't know the internal politics of Italy.
yeah.
So uh, I would say one more the player to watch out for me is Grant Stewart. He's a regular in the county championship in England, so he's the one who's got some experience. Of course, Wayne Madsen has also played a lot of county cricket, and he's very experienced. He's 41 years old, but I would go with Grant Stewart. And one name that you would be very happy to find in this team is John Smuts. He's a part of this
Oh,
Italian team, and
wow.
I didn't know that until I saw the scorecard in one of the games against Ireland. So he's that famous player from South Africa who opens with the bat and ball. He's now a part of Italy. So these are a few players to watch out for. Of course, they have got the twin pair, which is the Mosca brothers and the Manenti brothers. And Ben Menenti has had experience of playing at the Big Bash this season for
Wow.
Perth's Sydney Sixers. So you might be surprised by a few of their performances in this World Cup. I won't be shocked if they take Nepal and Scotland down the wire here.
Yeah, and the best news for these teams is that they are playing on Wankhede and Eden Gardens, which are some of the best batting pitches in India. So if their batters get in, then they can actually score some good runs. And I was kind of expecting you to say Mark Watt as the player to watch out for from Scotland because you've seen him very closely in Oman a couple of years back when he was there. So, uh, who do you think out of these three teams will finish the highest? I would assume Nepal, but do you see any upsets among these three teams?
I think Nepal and Scotland have got a very good chance. Scotland would be a bit hard done by their lack of practice, but you
Yeah.
can't rule them out. But I would actually like to argue between West Indies, Scotland, and Nepal who would finish higher. And uh, I think it's anybody's to take the second spot. England, I feel, are a bit distanced from this pack, so I
Yeah.
won't really be concerned. Though England will have other concerns once they get out of this group, which we'll
Yeah.
talk about later. But for now, I feel West Indies, Scotland, and Nepal. West Indies have to be very careful. You cannot be complacent against these bunch of players.
All right, let's move to West Indies now. This is where I come in. So, my one player to watch out for from West Indies is Akil Hossain because, like you mentioned, the batting should take care of itself. But Akil Hossain is one bowler who is very important in the power play because he can bowl those crucial power play overs, restrict the runs, and he's also quite handy with the bat. So he's kind of the Sunil Narine replacement for them, and it's very similar to I think Jadeja or Akshar Patel in T20s. So he's one player I'm looking at, especially in the latter part of the tournament when you'll face a few nice batting orders like India and South Africa. You will need someone like Akil Hossain to restrict the openers.
Yeah, I think he will have a big role to play as a new ball bowler. Uh, I feel that if West Indies qualify, his role will also increase,
Yeah.
because once the pitches get slower, uh, he won't be seen just as a new ball bowler, and his role in the middle overs will also be crucial.
Hmm.
I've gone with Shimran Hetmeyer, the guy who I forgot to mention a few minutes back, but he's my player to watch out for. I just looked at him in this series against South Africa, and he looks like he's lost a bit of weight. He looks a lot fitter, and he looked in brilliant form. And then I checked his past scores, and I've seen that he's also consistently scoring runs. And West Indies, now that Pooran isn't there, are using him as a top order batter. So he's batting at 3 or at 4 consistently. So I think Hetmeyer, uh, even in the bigger picture, if you look past this World Cup, he has got a lot to prove. And with his fitness, he wasn't really going anywhere. But it's good to see him work on that, and I hope to see him back at his best.
Yeah, that's a nice pick. He's obviously played for so many years in the IPL, so he's familiar with these conditions. So that experience will also help them. Let's move to England.
I'll just come back in a minute.
Yeah, no worries. I'll handle the show for now. Let's go to England now. And this is the first or one of those teams in this World Cup or so far that we've discussed who are fighting for the championship, because I think so far it's just India, Australia, and now England. These three teams are the top contenders. And in England, the player that I've gone for is Will Jacks, because he's again very similar to a Glenn Maxwell, a guy who can bat as well, and he can bat across the order. So he can even open the innings, but he can play at number 3, number 4, and has also lately been finishing for England. So he can come down the order as well if needed. And the bigger role for him is as a part-time bowler, because we've seen him do that for Mumbai Indians, where he chips in with a few important wickets, and those have really been important ones, at least in the IPL. So even if he can bowl a couple of overs in each match, I think Will Jacks will be a very important player for England, because he will offer that flexibility when they can then play an extra batter or an extra bowler depending on the conditions. So I've gone with Will Jacks, and since Ved is back, let's go straight back to him.
Yeah, I was hearing whatever you said. Will Jacks is also a good choice because of the conditions, as you mentioned, and the fact that he has got experience of playing in India now for
Yeah.
at least 2 IPL seasons. That will help him a lot. I've gone with Phil Salt. He's Though he didn't have the best of ILT20s, he is someone who you can't look at form when you look at Phil Salt. He's just someone who turns up, similar to someone like a Travis Head. And when he does that, I think he's one of the most dangerous batters in the world. He too has got experience playing in India. He's also got experience of winning titles in India. He's played 2 IPL seasons and he's won both of them while playing an important role in both of them. So
Yeah.
I can see him also succeeding on tracks like the Wankhede and Eden Gardens. He's got good experience of playing there. So it all looks good for him. And when he does well, it all looks good for England.
Yeah, I agree. Phil Salt is like, he reminds me of Brendan McCullum, where you don't really look at his form, but if he gets going after like the first couple of balls, then he can make a big impact. Even if he plays maybe 10 or 15 balls, he can score 30, 40 runs and completely take the momentum towards England. I'm actually curious to know what your batting order for England would look like, because they've got so many players who play at the top of the order. They've got players like Tom Banton, Josh Butler, Ben Duckett, Phil Salt, Jacob Bethel. Even Will Jacks prefers playing at the top, but now he can finish the innings. But how would you stack this batting order? Because to me, it looks like everybody likes to play in the top two or three.
Yeah, I think they do have that problem. I'll go with Salt and Butler to open. And then number 3 is pretty much open right now. You can either
Yeah.
go with Ben Duckett or Jacob Bethel or Tom Banton. One of them fits over there. And number 4 would be Harry Brook, though he has been known to come at number 5. I would like to see him play at number 4. And what I can see them do is play 2 out of Duckett, Banton, and Bethel, and then Brook comes at 5. That's not what I want, but that is what will happen. And then you've got Will Jacks at 6, who has replaced Liam Livingston in this team. And of course, then you have Sam Curran, and then the rest of the bowlers. So it is a good batting attack, but I can see them optimize it a bit more. But because Brook at number 4 would be very much your ideal choice, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, the only thing that I fear for England is that this batting attack looks quite one-dimensional. Because all these players across the leagues in the world, they are known for their power play hitting, but they're not really known to carry the innings and take it deep, except maybe a Will Jacks or Sam Curran sometimes, or Butler. But other than that, if you look at Banton, Duckett, Salt, Bethel, all these guys like to go big and then maybe get out. So this team lacks a bit of multi-dimensional batters, and they also lack a bit in the all-rounders, because the England that succeeded in the past, they had lots of all-rounders like Moeen Ali, Ben Stokes, Sam Curran, and then there were a few others as well, maybe Liam Livingston. This team will rely overly on Will Jacks and Sam Curran, because these are the only two standout all-rounders. Maybe Bethel, but he's not really proven himself yet.
Yeah, I've seen them in the past, and I do expect them to do that in the World Cup as well. They've gone with Jimmy Overton as another all-rounder, just to get the batting depth and then make him bowl 4 overs, which he's not really suited to do, but is forced to do.
Yeah.
So I can see that happening. One left field choice I would like them use is Rehan Ahmed as your number 3. He's done really well as a batter. He's no longer the Rehan Ahmed of the past. He's on a bit of a Steve Smith-esque curve as a player. He's becoming a wonderful batter. I can see him take up the number 4 spot after Joe Root. This is my very early prediction.
Whoa. Wow.
But for now, I think he can actually be used at the number 3 spot. So can Sam Curran. So they've
Yeah.
got enough flexibility within the batting. What they need to do is have enough bowling options so they're not forced to bowl Jimmy Overton a lot. He's really bad.
Okay. So you have gone with Phil Salt and I've gone with Jacks. I would also like to mention Josh Butler, because he's the only player who has tons of experience, maybe alongside Sam Curran. But Butler as a batter, as I just mentioned, he will be responsible to play through the innings and make sure that they end well, because I'm sure England will go bang bang in the power play, but what I'm worried is they lose a lot of wickets and then just end up with like a 150 or 160. So it's going to be Butler who will basically need to stay till the end and make sure they finish well.
Yeah. So now let us move on to Group D, the final group, and one of the toughest groups. They've got South Africa, New Zealand, Afghanistan, UAE, and Canada as the 5 teams. And this group will be playing matches across 3 venues, all in India: Chennai, Ahmedabad, and Delhi. So it's a very kind of a difficult group for the top 3 teams.
Yeah.
you've got South Africa and New Zealand, who are kind of considered to be the teams to make it through most group stages. But then Afghanistan, you cannot take them lightly, especially after the last World Cup,
Yeah.
both T20 and the ODI World Cup, and also the Champions Trophy this year. So they've always been close and always being upsetting teams. So much so that I won't even call them defeating either of South Africa or New Zealand in this World Cup as an upset anymore. So,
Yeah.
what do you make of this group?
Yeah, I absolutely agree because they've made the semis of the previous World Cup, so they're no longer an underdog. And especially in these subcontinent conditions, their spin attack becomes even more potent, just like India's. So they absolutely are favorites. But I still think South Africa should fairly easily make it through because the kind of team they've assembled is. I think they are contenders for the title, and they are the second most favorites for me after India. So I think South Africa should win all their games and make it through easily. But New Zealand will have a very difficult time, especially after their recent India series. They won't be confident at all. So Afghanistan can easily defeat them and make it through.
Yeah, I feel that Afghanistan would have loved to play in Sri Lanka, because if that was the case, I would have actually put them as one of the guaranteed Super 8 teams at least from this group. But I think playing in India kind of neutralizes their advantage a bit, though they have improved their batting as well. But I think when it comes to this group, I would say, as you mentioned, South Africa would definitely be one of the teams, and I see Afghanistan versus New Zealand as a knockout, because the other two teams, I don't think they will come in between UAE and
Yeah.
Canada. So Afghanistan versus New Zealand will very well be the virtual knockout from this group, and that game will be played in Chennai. So New Zealand going to have a tough time, especially if Afghanistan load their bowling with Mujib, Noor, Rashid, and Allah. There's a very big possibility of that happening.
Yeah.
So tough times for New Zealand, and I feel Afghanistan at this moment have a very good chance.
Yeah, on a lighter note, when we both were together in Oman, we did face this Afghanistan bowling attack in a virtual game, and we saw how, how difficult it gets. And it was in Chennai as well, I think, that match. So we have experienced it virtually, but we'll see if that really happens. But I was just looking at the schedule, and it's a shame that the Afghanistan-New Zealand game is the first match in the group. It would have been really nice if that was the last match, where it was basically a virtual knockout. That would have made it much more interesting. But
Yeah, and my theory of them copy pasting the previous year's groups is again coming to light, because Afghanistan and New Zealand were a part of the same group last time, and even then, I think the first game was Afghanistan versus New Zealand for either teams, and Afghanistan thrashed New Zealand, and it pretty much ended that campaign for them, because Afghanistan, I think the other team in that group was West Indies, and they
Yeah.
too defeated New Zealand, and New Zealand were knocked out in just the first two games, and then they had to play the associates. So it's a similar story now. Hopefully New Zealand don't meekly surrender uh, and give a good fight.
yeah, and I think another coincidence, or maybe an engineered coincidence, is that the previous semi-final was between South Africa and Afghanistan, and they are again in the same group. So ICC, we see what ICC is doing, but hopefully these matches or these matchups deliver, because they have in the past, which is why they are in the same group again.
Yeah, so talking about players to watch out for, let us go with South Africa first. I've gone with Quinton de Kock. and I didn't imagine myself saying this even 6 months ago, because he just reversed his retirement, came into the team, and kicked, or rather took the place of Ryan Rickelton, and he's been really good. I think more than his form, his experience will be valuable,
Yeah.
because he's kind of grown up playing in India at this point. Comes here every other year, every year of course with the IPL, but also stored a lot, and I think his form has been very good. In the recent series versus India, he got a couple of big scores, then did well in the SA20, and now has got 100 against West Indies as well in this ongoing series. So Quinton de Kock for me uh, is the player to watch out for.
Yeah, he was one of my players to watch out for as well. And this is not just for South Africa but also for Mumbai Indians, because they managed to get him for just 1 crore, which is the biggest steal I've ever seen in the IPL auctions. But leaving that aside, my player to watch out for is Devon Brevis, because he, over the last 12 months, has taken the world allied with his performances. He came to the IPL and I think played a few really great innings, and he gained a lot of experience. He played in Chennai as well, so if South Africa is playing there, he will have that a bit of home advantage. Plus, he'll be familiar with the conditions, and as I said, he's got the freedom to go out and just start hitting sixes from ball one, which is what I also saw in the T20 series and the ODI series as well against India. He would come and just start hitting sixes, and even if he converts 2 or 3 of his innings into big scores like 80s or 90s, then South Africa is winning that match, guaranteed. So he's a match winner. Again, in the group stage, it should be quite easy for South Africa, but he will be very useful in the later part of the tournament, especially when they're playing against India or Australia, because he can basically bat South Africa to the win, and then the bowling basically doesn't need to do much.
Yeah, so those are our picks for South Africa. Moving on to New Zealand, I think a lot of the casual fans will have New Zealand vivid in their memories because India just playing a series against them. So I've gone with someone who hasn't played a game in that series yet, and for me he's their most important player, and he's kind of the missing puzzle in this 11, and he's Finn Allen. He instantly makes the 11. He will be playing the final game, if I'm not wrong, because he was busy with the Big Bash League. He couldn't play earlier games, but he's back, and I think he's taken the Big Bash by storm. And even before that, in the international circuit, he's someone who has kind of reinvented himself, not on as large a scale as someone like a Brevis, but he's still improved a lot from whatever he was a few years back when he first came into limelight. So I won't be surprised if Finn Allen plays a kind of Phil Salt role for this New Zealand team, and I feel that is the only thing missing. Their batters are quality batters, but they don't have the kind of modern day strike rates, and I think him replacing Conway will make that opening pair a lot more dangerous. Finn Allen and Tim Seifert, both in good form and both are clean hitters, so I've gone with Finn Allen.
Yeah, that's a fair call, because Finn Allen, I remember you hyped him up a few years back and then he flopped, and then I started teasing you. But now he's back, so ultimately whoever Wade picks will make it. I have gone with 2 players actually. One is Glenn Phillips and one is Michael Bracewell. And you can start seeing the pattern. Since they're playing in India, I usually like to pick players who are all-rounders and spinners. So Michael Bracewell and Glenn Phillips both fit the bill. Phillips, we saw what he can do with the bat. Plus he's an excellent fielder and he can chip in with those 2 or 3 overs if needed. And Bracewell is, I think, their most important player, because he's like Santner, but a bit better with the bat and slightly inferior with the ball. So both of them, they complement each other very well. So if these two players do well, I think New Zealand have a chance of qualifying.
Yeah, so those are our picks. Going on to Afghanistan, I think a lot of people will invariably go with their spinners as the biggest strength, but I feel the one man who can make a difference in this team has to be Ibrahim Zadran, and I'm gone with him. Again, a very consistent batter at the top, and what I noticed is that initially in his career he used to still score runs, but they weren't as impactful. He would just make his runs and go. But what he's been doing in the last few months is he's scoring match-winning runs, and uh, again consistency is his forte, and he's also upped his strike rate. So I see a lot of good things there, and I've gone with him ahead of someone like Rashid Khan, who I just want to mention. I feel that he is slowly coming back to his old. Uh, I've seen his numbers, but I wasn't really satisfied, so I watched him bowl in a few games, and I can see that he doesn't have that problem anymore where he used to bowl a few balls halfway down the track because of his back. I think he is always the king of spin, and if he doesn't have any injury concerns, he's obviously going to be the other name.
Yeah, they basically have five spinners that can all play. You've got Nabi, Rashid, Mujib, Noor, and Allah Ghazanfar. But I think one player that should be very important for them is Fazalak Farooqi, because like a player from, was it England? Not England, I think I think from Netherlands. You said that left arm seamers they tend to do very well in India, and we've seen
Trumpelman.
Trumpelman, yeah. And we have seen Farooqi do well in the previous World Cup. I think he was the joint highest wicket taker along with Arshdeep Singh. So Farooqi again will be an important player again in the second half of the tournament when they play stronger teams like India and maybe even Australia, where you have players like Mitch Marsh, Sanju Samson, who are potent to getting out to left arm swing, and that's when Fazalak Farooqi will be very important for them.
Yeah, I think he will play a big role going forward. So let me quickly wrap up the two associates from this group. And these two teams, I can truly call them associates, and I don't feel like they have even the slightest of chance. Though again, T20 cricket has evolved, and all the talk of anybody can defeat anyone. Uh, I would like to mention that UAE did pull off a win against New Zealand
Yeah, I remember seeing
in
that.
2023. So you can never really be sure, but the least probability possibly here. UAE, I've gone with Mohammad Wasim. He's one of the best. I would actually call him as the best associate cricketer from this World Cup. He's got the most number of sixes in international T20
Wow.
cricket, ahead of Rohit Sharma, and uh, he's very consistent, and I would like to see him do well as a captain this time, because he's got experience of playing with the big boys. He's been a part of Emirates for quite a while, so I would like to see him do well. The only reason why I feel UAE have a good chance or will do better than the other associates is because of the exposure UAE players have gotten playing ILT20 with so many international stars. So that's an advantage they have. Whether they utilize it or not, we'll see. And then moving on to Canada, it just feels like one of the most buried and dull, nothing is happening kind of a team. You don't even know if they have made it to India yet, such is their case. So maybe you can give us a better idea than their cricket board at this stage. So Canada, I think the player to watch out for again. I've gone with the last game that they've played, and that is, I think, well past 4 months since they've played international cricket, which is not ideal. And
Yeah.
I've gone with Navneet Dhaliwal as my player to watch out for. He's done well. We have seen him in 2024 as well. One name that really impressed a lot of people in the last World Cup was Nick Kirton, if you remember. He batted really well against Pakistan and also against USA in the first game. So though he's not been in form for a while, if you go by the eye test, I would say Kirtan, but right now Navneet Dhaliwal.
It's a matter of shame for me because I'm here in Canada and I still have absolutely no clue about this cricket team. It's kind of understandable that they haven't played a lot of cricket, and I'm sure that they haven't even been practicing because it's been snowing for the past 4 months, so they basically have no chance to do anything. But I hope they can win at least against UAE. But even that looks tough based on the kind of players UAE has. But anyways, I think this is
Yeah.
all the 20 teams covered. Now you
So
can't complain
we
that we
can-
don't cover T20 World Cups.
Yeah, this is the most comprehensive international guide that we have ever made. I think we have combined not talked this much about international cricket as much as we have done here in this 1 hour, and we are not done quite yet. We'll not really go deep into Super 8s right now because we don't know who are the teams, but we can talk about the seedings for the time being. So the two Super 8 teams, for those who don't know the format, your top 8 teams, which is top 2 from each of the 4 groups, will get placed into 2 more groups of 4 each, and that make up the 8. And then there'll be another round robin between those 4, and then the top 2 from those 2 groups will then end up playing the semis. So right now
So-
ICC have preceded the teams. So what they've done is that if these 8 qualify, they will qualify in these groups, no matter wherever they finish in their group in the league stage. So the first group is India, Australia, South Africa, West Indies. And if any of these 4 don't qualify, then the team that qualified in place of them will replace them here. What is interesting here is that it's a very difficult group. India, Australia, South Africa together. So this is the real, I think for most people, this is where the tournament actually starts getting interesting. You've got one here. I genuinely feel India, of course, are the best team in the world, so they shouldn't have a problem making it through even this group. But it will be interesting to watch. India play South Africa in Ahmedabad, they play Australia in Chennai, and they play West Indies in Kolkata, which I can't guarantee you will be West Indies, but for the time being we have to assume it to be them. So what do you feel about this group?
Yeah, I mean, compared to the other group, which must be England, Pakistan, New Zealand,
Sri
or
Lanka
Afghanistan,
and New Zealand.
Sri Lanka, New Zealand, I think this is much tougher because I think South Africa and Australia, on a given day, I think their win, the probability of them beating India is fairly high. I think it's a 50-50 contest because India is not that good compared to teams like Australia or South Africa. So I won't say that India will guaranteed make it through. They should be maybe in the top 2, but I don't think India is going to win all the games. But yeah, as you said, this is a much tougher group.
Yeah, and India have played a series against Australia and South Africa recently, where they dropped a game each. So
Yeah.
Australia and South Africa will be hoping that they can follow the template of that game. But I feel if they're smart, they won't really bother about India right now, because ideally Australia versus South Africa is the game to plan for, because that is the one that will decide if you're going through, because eventually you're going to play the semis. So whether you finish first or second in this group doesn't matter, you have to just make it through. So India are not that big a team that don't you already give up against them, but I feel Australia South Africa is the game to watch out for here. And in the second group, you've got Pakistan, Sri Lanka, England, and New Zealand. The only thing for me which makes this group interesting is that it's going to be played entirely in Sri Lanka. So England and New Zealand, I've got a bit of a disadvantage there. I feel Pakistan and Sri Lanka have a great chance to revive the old days of 2010s where Asians dominated world cricket, and you regularly had Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India make the semis of ICC events. Something like that could happen. I feel more than Sri Lanka, Pakistan have got a golden chance of making it through to the semis, because New Zealand or Afghanistan, either of them, I feel Pakistan are well equipped to defeat them, and to some extent even England, considering the spin bowling of England isn't that good, and their ability to play spin either. So I feel Pakistan are in for a bumper tournament here.
Yeah, the best part for them is that, assuming Afghanistan and Sri Lanka make it through, I think these two teams are the ones Pakistan has been playing for most of the time in the last few months. So they know the teams really well. They know their weaknesses, so they just need to execute and they should be through. But I want to make my first bold prediction of this year, and this is regarding Group A. I think West Indies will lose, or whichever team qualifies in place of West Indies will lose all the three games. But I see one of South Africa or Australia beating India, and India beating them, and the other team beating the team that beat India. So it's basically going to be each team will win 2 games, will win 3 games and lose 1 game. And then it will come down to net run rate. And I feel for some reason that India will lose out on the net run rate.
Well, guess what? ICC have thought about that as well. So the last game there is India versus West Indies. So they have an idea of if they need net run rate boost. But yeah, I think that is a very, very bold prediction to make, considering what India are right now.
Is it really
course.
bold? Because I'm just saying that one of South Africa or Australia beats India, which is normal because we've just seen that happen, and it's not that extraordinary to predict.
I think India are too good in these conditions. Though they have lost a game to South Africa, to New Zealand, and to Australia, I feel somehow the conditions will be a lot more expected, and I feel at the moment it is difficult to see India dropping a single game here, because as the tournament goes on you also gain momentum. But one thing that can stop them again is them misreading conditions, and that is the only thing that has stopped them in the recent past in ICC events, because you might be tempted to make a spin track, but now that you have got enough evidence that your own batters can't handle spin, will you still prefer that, or will you go for a all-out batting a track where your batters will succeed and you know that your bowlers are capable enough. You just have to trust them. So that is a decision they have to make. Because if you make, so you have to basically weigh in the chances of either your bowling attack not being able to defend a 220-ish score, or your batting uh, chasing something like a 150, 160. What is more harder for your players? That is a decision they have to make, and then make the conditions according to that.
Yeah, just the last point. I don't see either of these things happen. In which way India can lose? What I see happening is that India bowl first and they concede a 210 or a 215, and they try to basically hit out of their out of the muddle, and Abhishek or Sanju, and then one more guy, maybe Surya or Kishan, get out, and then we are maybe 20 for 3, and then we are always catching up, just like the New Zealand T20 that happened. And that's also how we lost against South Africa, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Where we lose early wickets and then we are constantly just chasing, and that's how we lose games. That's the only worry that I have. But other than that, we are very strong.
So you think that the batting failure will lead to India's demise, or at least will put them in trouble? And I think it is not surprising, or it won't be surprising to see the management think in the similar fashion, and that is why I fear spin tracks are going to be a feature of India's campaign. Hopefully, they don't, because I would rather have them try and chase 220 instead of trying to chase 170 on a 150
Yeah,
pitch, because the
absolutely.
chances of them failing there are much more. And more than that, the chances of coming out of an initial rut on such tracks is
Yeah,
more challenging, because you saw India, though they lost their two games in that fashion, they also chased 210 after being 6 for 2,
yeah,
and I think even in the next game they were 30 for 2, and then they chased 180 in 15 overs. So their chances of succeeding are equally high on such tracks,
yeah.
but you have to make the trade off.
Correct. And it just comes down to the pressure, like I mentioned even before the Asia Cup final. Because when you're playing in a knockout game, it's completely different versus playing a bilateral series. And that's the only test for our young batters, especially the likes of Abhishek or Ishan Kishan or Tilak Varma. Tilak Varma is proven in the Asia Cup final, but we need someone else to do a similar job in this World Cup. And before we end, if you remember, I tried to raise my hand earlier, so I'll make that question now, which is, do you really like this format of Super 8s, or would it be more interesting to see a quarterfinals format where basically teams get knocked out after one game and then you move to semis and then final?
Yeah, I think from a monetary perspective, this format works more because you get more guaranteed games of top teams. But I mean, in any serious or a global sport that doesn't only focus on money, quarterfinals is the way to go, because it increases the kind of excitement that a global
Yeah,
event has, and that's what all major sports follow, and that is a very fan forward way of operating, I would say, and not money forward. But
yeah.
here, of course, you get three more guaranteed India games, even if they don't make it through to the semis. So you're just maximizing your opportunity to earn cash, and not really prioritizing the game itself. But hopefully that changes now that India consistently doing well. I would like to see them at least experiment with this idea, because even in
Yeah.
the ODI World Cup, you're going to have a same kind of a format. So why not
Oh,
have the quarterfinals for the T20 World Cup and the ODI World Cup, you go with this format, because that would also mean you have some differentiation between the tournaments, and the fans will get to experience both sides of the world.
Yeah, that's a great idea because I feel with the quarterfinals, the only thing maybe against it is if you have one bad day, then you're out. But I feel that's how it should be if you want to win the World Cup. You need to win every single game for 3 consecutive days, and that's the only way you want to win. So this is one thing that I would like the ICC to experiment with, and the other thing is to have a, a draw system for deciding the groups, just how FIFA does it. You basically have a few pots, so you basically have the top teams such as India, Australia, England, South Africa, and maybe one more, New Zealand. So you have these teams in a pot, then you have the next level, and then the the associates, and you basically pick one team from each pot in each group. So you're not going to have India, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa in one group because you're dividing the teams as per the pots. That's something they should do to remove this engineered excitement of putting India, Pakistan in one group or putting Afghanistan, South Africa in the other group. They should just make it random and make sure that whatever happens, basically create excitement out of that.
Yeah, I think that is the way forward, because you don't want to deal with this political drama every single time. I hope ICC don't want to deal with that unless they're somehow minting money from this as well. So the best way would be to follow what any other sport does and go with that. I think till very recently, they also used to follow something called a snake ranking system, where
Yeah,
they would use the rankings to decide the groups, which was also somewhat good. And that is how you got a few tournaments where India and Pakistan weren't in the same group. The 2020 T20 World Cup, the originally scheduled one, was famously the last event where that system was followed. And incidentally, that was the last time India and Pakistan were not in the same group. So you have to get your priorities sorted here.
yeah,
And if I have hope that this kind of political situation is an eye opener for ICC, and they stop selling their broadcast rights on the back of the India versus Pakistan cash cow, because at some point you have to value your hassle more than the game itself. And if fans also threaten to boycott and Pakistan and India keep having this drama, I think eventually ICC will move to not having them in the same group.
yeah. Let's hope so. That will only make the tournament and the sport more professional because then it will make sense. Otherwise, you basically it doesn't make sense to have India Pakistan in the same group for all the tournaments. Like there's no reason for that apart from the money. So
Yeah, and the one more thing that I would like to add is the one tournament where ICC just don't care about uh, planting groups, and they do it on a random basis, is the Under 19 World Cup. And you can see the kind of diversity you have there,
yeah,
because they randomly draw groups, and India Pakistan almost hardly have ever come into the same group, and that is purely on luck, because that is where they randomize groups. So I know that property doesn't earn them much money, so they can afford to do it, but hopefully that trickles down into other events. uh, I think it will happen soon, because you can't have this drama every single time. So yeah.
yeah. So I think with that, this has become our longest ever podcast. We are close to hitting 90 minutes now. So anything else left to be covered? And what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm very excited. The warm up games begin from the 2nd of February, so we
Oh,
are a few hours away from that. And I saw that the song of this World
Yeah.
Cup was also launched today by
Yeah.
Anirudh Ravichandar. I didn't hear it yet, but I just read that the song was out. I'm really excited to listen, and I don't have much hopes because I know what kind of music he makes. But
Yeah,
it's
I,
good.
I
That,
heard the
yeah.
song. I didn't like it at all because it sounds like it basically sounds like a TNPL soundtrack because he made the TNPL soundtrack for its first ever season, which became a super hit, which is why they asked him to make it this time. And I absolutely don't like it. It represents the southern India and mostly Tamil Nadu, but
Oh.
it doesn't represent India as a whole.
And one thing I would like to say, even before listening, or one thing I'm sure about, is that the song would be uh, kind of tuned so that they get a good scorecard music out of it, and that is kind of been the primary focus of theme songs in the recent past, where they want a tune that is attractive enough for the scorecard music, and the lyrics are just seem to be an afterthought most of the times, just to fit into that tune. So I expect this song to be a very tune focused song as well.
Yeah,
So let's see.
but just to give Anirudh the benefit of doubt, I think this was my reaction was similar even for the 2023 World Cup song. But that eventually ended up becoming iconic because of the number of times we had to listen to it and also because of India's performance. At the end, it basically turned into a nightmare, but up until that one day, it was starting to become an iconic song. So I hope this goes in the same direction, but we also end up winning the cup.
Yeah, so I think we have covered pretty much everything that there was to cover for the time being. So, with that being said and everything done, I think we can wrap up this episode.
Yeah,
And
but just one last thing, we should inform the viewers about our coverage. Will it be weekly or will it be daily coverage?
daily is too big and too much of an ambition, I feel. We will try to cover at least once in every 2 or 3 days, because in the group stage you have got 3 games every day, so
Yeah.
there will be a lot to talk once every 2 or 3 days. So we'll try to increase our frequency. Surely we can't do once a week, it will be just too much to talk about.
Yeah.
So we will be very active during the World Cup, and we also, before the World Cup starts, we want to do a dedicated episode related to the Women's Premier League, because it feels a bit wrong to not value their performances. A few people have kind of sidelined that tournament, and we don't want to be guilty of that. So that episode is coming up soon, and for the T20 World Cup we will come and record our episodes at least once every 3 days.
All right. So this time I'll say this. With that being said, uh, this is farewell from Yash. I forgot what your dialogue is.
This is Ved signing off.
Bye.